Committee, Mr. McCotter of Michigan.
I thank the gentleman. Coming from the Great Lakes state when I was younger, I was always fascinated with the history of maritime travel in our beautiful homeland. And so when I was younger, I saw a book. It was called The Phantom Freighter, and it was a Hardy Boys mystery. And I read it. I loved how they worked through to find the motivations and to finally unmask the culprit. And eventually I read the whole series. And it's kind of rekindled in me today that sense of wonder at who and why something was done, and to work through the mystery to find out. Who could possibly be the hidden hand behind the mystery amendment? And I commend my colleague from Ohio for his search to cut through the fog of our times to find that hidden hand that wrote the mystery amendment. And I will do everything I can to help him with this search, as I trust members of the media will. Look, in many ways, because this was in the stimulus bill, it has stimulated a lot of reportorial interest in who actually did this. I think that we can assume that if you can unmask the culprit, there may very well be a Pulitzer in it for someone for doing so. But when we look at this in all seriousness, what we've seen is a classic example of a rush to judgment causing problems. Now, as a matter of civics, since the subject was broached, when the stimulus bill came to this floor with this amendment inserted into it, it was voted upon by the members of the House. Not one Republican voted for a stimulus bill with this amendment in it, which means that every Republican voted against approving and protecting AIG's bonuses. On the Democratic side, every Democrat that voted for that stimulus bill voted for that amendment that approved and protected AIG's bonuses. The President of the United States signed the stimulus bill that included the amendment that approved and protected AIG's bonuses into law. And now that the public is aware of the AIG bonuses, we have seen another rush to misjudgment, where we turn the tax code into a penal code, where we shred the Constitution to use it as a political fig leaf and set a heinous precedent in the future for other people who may be disliked or disfavored given the political mood of the moment. In fact, one of the things, whether you agree with the constitutional analysis or not, is this. This bill still allows the bonus recipients to keep 10% of their bonuses. And it doesn't do a thing to prevent the $30 billion that has already been committed to AIG from being drawn upon. I think that if we were going to do anything today, it should have been to get 100% of those bonuses back to the taxpayers and prevent another dime going to AIG in bailout money. That is just me and 90 some others of my colleagues. When we look at where we are today with the resolution of inquiry that the gentleman from Ohio introduced, I think I can establish the motive behind the hidden hand that wrote the mystery amendment. I do not believe that this was a mistake. I do not believe that this was simply a matter of venality for a hometown constituency. I think this was an actual matter of economic policy by this administration, if I may explain. We heard from Mr. Liddy of AIG yesterday that he was very much afraid of losing the people who had caused the problem at AIG before they had managed to fix it. He believed that if these individuals left, you would see a meltdown again of AIG, which he believes would help create economic chaos throughout America. I believe that in consultation with individuals from the United States government and potentially the Federal Reserve Board, he made the determination that these bonuses, retention bonuses, were necessary to keep those people at AIG, facilitating what he believes is an orderly unwinding of the mess. When viewed in the light of having to keep the people who created the problem so they could fix it before they left, this amendment makes sense. This amendment makes sense as a matter of policy because on January 28th, CNN's Mary Snow reported that AIG was expected to receive $100 million at least in bonuses. That is out in the public realm. You see the senators put forward their amendment to preclude the very types of bonuses AIG received. If you are looking at this as a matter of economic policy, you say to yourself, the AIG bonuses that are coming down the pike are now public. You say to yourself, the politicians in Congress are not going to allow this to happen because the public is going to be apoplectic. You see the opportunity in the stimulus bill with $1 trillion of spending being rushed through in the dead of night. You say to yourself, uh-oh, the senators have already put forward an amendment to preclude such bonuses. We are going to have to remove it, and we are going to have to put something in its place to approve, protect, and grandfather the AIG bonuses so we do not lose the quote-unquote talent that produced the problem and that has to fix it. It now makes perfect sense. But having established the motive, we have yet to establish the culprit. The public is apoplectic, as I said earlier, because they do not believe that as a matter of economic policy this amendment is fair to them, that it is patently inequitable, and they do not want the people who caused the problem to benefit from being propped up courtesy of billions of dollars of taxpayer money. Now, the response in Congress is not to look at the economic policy to make the determination that AIG is too big to fix, that it should be wound down immediately, the taxpayers should be protected. Instead, as I mentioned earlier, we saw a political fig leaf put forward. The mood was also reminiscent of what I experienced as a young man watching a very important artsy film called Animal House. We all remember the scene where they're sitting around Delta House drinking beer, bemoaning their horrible grades at the midterm exams, and Dean Wormer walks in. And immediately the members of Delta House start to hide their beer under their seats and in the back, and the dean looks at them and says, "You know, drinking is illegal in fraternities here at Faber College." When the public found out about this bonus to AIG executives, when they found out what this amendment allowed and was voted for by a majority of this Congress and signed into law by the President of the United States, you saw the political equivalent of Delta House hiding their beers so Dean Wormer would not be upset. In the event, Dean Wormer was not fooled, and neither has been the American public. They want to see this situation resolved. They want all the money back in those bonuses. They want to prevent more money going from AIG. And as the gentleman from Ohio has pointed out, they want to find out who the hidden hand behind the mystery amendment was. We talk about transparency in government. We talk about accountability in government. And you're telling me that we can't even determine who put this amendment into a $1 trillion spending bill that was approved by this Democratic Congress and signed into law by the President of the United States. I would hope that this inquiry becomes a bipartisan cause in the interests of answering that question for the American people. I yield back to the gentleman from Ohio.